Welcome to the Immersion Zone. Today we're taking a deep dive into Blue Mind, a book by Wallace J. Nichols, which explores the surprising science that shows how being near, in, on, or underwater can make you happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what you do. So, scuba diving is good for people beyond the fun of it.
All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always fun to be back.
I was thinking about the other day about that feeling that you get, like when you're teaching a new student and they finally get neutral buoyancy for the first time.
Yeah.
They're just sort of like, it just clicks, and they're weightless.
It's a magical moment.
It really is. It's amazing. Or even just like, seeing the look on someone's face when they see a sea turtle for the first time, gliding right past them.
Absolutely.
I mean, there really is something special about being in the water, right? That connection that goes so much deeper than just, learning how to use the equipment or anything like that.
Definitely, yeah. There's something deeper.
But what if that feeling, that connection, what if it's even more powerful than we realize?
That's exactly the territory that Wallace J. Nichols dives into in his book, Blue Mind. And it really speaks to what you're talking about. As dive instructors, you already have this intuitive understanding of the power of water. And what Nichols does is he brings in this really compelling scientific framework to support that feeling.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today. We're going deep on Blue Mind by Wallace J. Nichols.
That's right.
And, as dive instructors, you spend so much time in and around the ocean. So our goal today is to explore how the science that Nichols presents really underscores this idea that the connection with water, it goes way beyond just diving itself.
Right.
It has all these other benefits for people. And how maybe by understanding that you can even shift your perspective a bit on the ocean itself and the potential that you have to help your clients.
I think that's a great way to frame it. And throughout the book, Blue Mind Nichols actually shares a lot of personal anecdotes that highlight this really deep connection that he's had with water throughout his life. And I think they really set the stage for the main ideas he's exploring. So, for instance, he talks about canoeing under the night sky, listening to Tchaikovsky as a teenager, or the simple joy of snorkeling as a kid in a local pond called Bowman Pond.
Yeah.
And even, finding this strange sense of peace scuba diving in these old flooded quarries.
Wow.
And it's clear that these formative experiences really shaped his thinking and led him to pursue this line of research.
Absolutely. So, we've all heard the saying, right? Water is life.
Yeah.
It's essential for survival.
Yeah.
But Nichols in Blue Mind, he goes so much deeper than that.
He does.
He's saying that water actually impacts our brains and our well-being in some really profound ways, emotionally, cognitively, and even physically.
Right.
And think about it, we've all experienced that sense of calm that washes over us when we're near the ocean, right?
Absolutely. And to put this into a wider perspective, consider just how much of our planet is covered by water.
Yeah.
It's over 70% of the Earth's surface. And a staggering 96% of that is the salt water of our oceans. And here's something even more mind-blowing. The plankton in our oceans, they produce more than half of the oxygen that we breathe.
Wow.
It even led Arthur C. Clarke to famously suggest that we should have named our planet Ocean instead of Earth.
That's pretty incredible.
It is. It really speaks to the profound importance of water in our world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the big ideas in Blue Mind that Nichols introduces is this concept of blue mind.
Yeah.
And essentially it's a state of calm and centeredness that we often feel when we're around water. And he contrasts it with red mind, which is like that stressed, agitated state, and then gray mind, which is more of a numbed out, depressed state.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's really insightful is that Nichols argues that this blue mind state, it's not just, a fleeting good feeling that we have when we're near water. It actually has a much deeper impact on our overall happiness and well-being. Yeah. And importantly, research has actually shown that happiness is contagious.
Yeah.
It spreads, it positively influences not just ourselves, but also the people around us, and even their social circles. Happier individuals, they tend to have better cognitive function, they make more sound decisions, they take better care of their health, and they even foster stronger relationships.
Wow.
Yeah, so, that blue mind state that you're helping your clients access through diving can actually have these really positive ripple effects.
That's incredible. Okay, so we all intuitively feel this connection to water. But why? What's actually going on in our brains when we're around it?
That's a really crucial question. And, to be honest, Studying the complex ways in which our brains interact with water in real-world settings, it presents some unique challenges for scientists.
I can imagine.
Yeah, tools like fMRI scans, they can provide valuable insights into brain activity,
Yeah.
but they can be somewhat limited in capturing the dynamic multisensory experience of actually being in the ocean, for example.
Right.
But as Dr. David People points out, our understanding of brain function is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And there are these emerging techniques like DTI, which tracks the movement of water molecules in the brain,
Right.
and wearable FNIRS devices, which hold a lot of promise for studying these interactions in more natural environments. So it's a field that's constantly developing.
So exciting things to come.
Right.
Okay, so based on the science that Nichols presents in Blue Mind and what we know now, what do we understand about what happens in our brains when we're around water?
Well, one thing that Nichols highlights is the important role played by the more ancient parts of our brain.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the brainstem and the limbic system. These are the regions that evolved earlier in our history, and they're really involved in our fundamental responses.
Okay.
And when we encounter water, these areas can actually trigger the release of neurochemicals that make us feel good.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so think about the example that Jamal Yogi shares in the book about his experiences with ocean swimming. He describes this profound sense of peace and even euphoria, which is likely linked to the release of endorphins.
Wow.
And we also see the release of oxytocin, a neurochemical associated with feelings of trust and calm,
Okay.
and dopamine, which plays a role in our sense of novelty and reward when we're in or around water. It's almost like our brains have their own internal pharmacy that the presence of water can activate.
I love that analogy. I mean, I know personally after a really good dive, I often have this lingering sense of well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the research that Nichols discusses shows that these benefits aren't limited to just being in the water.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, studies have shown that even just looking at natural scenes, and particularly those that include water,
Okay.
they can actually increase activity in brain regions associated with empathy and happiness.
Wow.
And conversely, images of urban environments, they tend to activate the amygdala, which is part of the brain's threat response system, and plays a role in stress.
Oh, wow. So our brains are really responding to these different environments in such different ways.
They really are.
One of the things that I found really fascinating in Blue Mind was how Nichols emphasizes the way our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world around us through our senses.
That's right. Our brains are continuously creating what are known as perceptual maps. And our past experiences, they actually play a huge role in how we interpret new information.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so as neurologist Gerald Smallberg explains, our perception is really rooted in recognition and interpretation.
Okay.
And our individual history, it shapes how we experience everything. So, this is why, for example, individuals who are born blind and later regain their sight, they often struggle to understand shapes and distances initially because their brains haven't yet developed those visual frameworks.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is.
So how does Nichols connect this idea of perceptual maps to our relationship with water?
Well, he points to research showing that certain visual elements tend to really capture our attention, and these elements are often linked to our survival. And guess what? They're also prominent features of water.
Or like?
Things like color shininess movement.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And let's focus on color for a moment, specifically blue.
Blue. Yeah, the color of the ocean.
Exactly. And there's a really deep-seated appeal to blue that Nichols explores in the book.
Okay.
So think about the Harper Hill Blue Lagoon in the UK.
Okay.
Despite clear warnings about the water being contaminated and dangerous people were constantly drawn to it.
Really?
Yeah, it was this beautiful turquoise hue, and it wasn't until authorities actually dyed the water black that people finally stopped swimming in it.
Wow.
Even the poet Robert Frost, in his poem Fragmentary Blue, he wrote about this innate wish for blue that we seem to have.
That's so interesting.
It is. And neurosurgeon Amir Vokshor, whose work is discussed in Blue Mind, he explains that the specific wavelengths of blue light, they can have this really calming yet energizing effect.
Yeah.
Huh? And it can actually trigger positive emotional responses and potentially even stimulate the release of dopamine.
Really?
Yeah, and he theorizes that this might be due to our evolutionary history on a planet where, shades of blue, the sky and the oceans have always been so dominant.
That's fascinating.
It is. And there's even a study from 2010 that Nichols references that showed that exposure to blue light actually enhanced the connections between the areas of the brain involved in processing voices and those involved in emotion, suggesting that it strengthens our ability to hear and understand.
Huh. So it's not just about the visual appeal, it's actually affecting how we process information.
Exactly. And even more dramatically, in Japan, they've installed blue lights in areas with high crime rates and at railway stations.
Really?
Yeah, and remarkably, suicide attempts in those blue lit areas reportedly ceased.
Wow.
Yeah, researchers speculate that this might be due to blue's calming properties or its ability to improve cognitive function.
Huh, that's incredible.
And then there's research from Canada indicating that different wavelengths of light, like red and blue, can actually enhance different types of cognitive performance.
Wow, color is so powerful.
It really is.
So even the color of the water that we dive in can impact our minds.
Absolutely.
Now, what about our other senses? What about taste?
Well, the sense of taste is also really intertwined with our connection to water.
How so?
Well, think about how we often describe seafood as tasting like the sea, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And being near the water can actually enhance our enjoyment of flavors associated with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, the chef Heston Blumenthal even conducted an experiment where she showed that the surrounding environment could influence people's perception of the taste of oysters.
Wow, that's wild.
It is. And then there's the more extreme example of flotation tanks, which Nichols touches on in the book.
Okay.
You know, being immersed in water where almost all external sensory input is removed
Yeah.
can lead to some really unusual and profound brain states.
I can imagine.
Yeah, Seth Stevenson, he famously described his experience in a float tank as reaching a state of zero thoughts,
Wow.
a level of mental quiet that he had never experienced before. So, you know, it really highlights how our senses are typically so engaged when we are in and around water.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've been talking about why we're drawn to water and the science behind it, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about the therapeutic benefits of being in on and near water. And I think this is where Blue Mind really speaks to us as dive professionals and how we can maybe broaden our perspective a bit.
I agree.
So let's start with swimming.
Okay.
I mean, it's such a popular and accessible activity.
It is.
And Nichols details all these physiological benefits.
Right.
Just being immersed in water can promote relaxation by influencing the balance of stress hormones in our bodies.
Yeah.
And then the hydrostatic pressure of water on our chest actually makes our respiratory system work a little harder, which can improve our endurance.
Right.
And of course, the resistance of water provides this amazing full body workout, strengthening muscles and improving circulation.
Absolutely.
So, as dive instructors, you might even consider how the act of being in the water, even outside of formal diving, could be something really valuable to offer your clients.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, let's talk about something a bit more adventurous, like surfing.
All right.
Nichols talks about surfing quite a bit in Blue Mind.
He does.
And it's a great example of how engaging with water can really tap into our brain's reward system in a positive way.
It is.
Programs like Van Karaza's Operation Surf, which Nichols discusses,
Yeah.
they actually utilize surfing to help people overcome really difficult challenges, like addiction and PTSD.
It's amazing.
And it's because surfing provides these intense peak experiences and this state of flow, this combination of excitement-focused attention challenge and often a sense of shared camaraderie.
Right.
And I was thinking, the intense focus and the thrill of diving could offer similar, though maybe different benefits to some people.
Yeah, I think there are definitely parallels there.
Okay, now what about fishing?
Okay.
I mean, it might seem like a more passive activity,
Right.
but Blue Mind suggests that there's more to its therapeutic value than just, catching fish.
Exactly. The research that Nichols cites, from places like Queensland and Minnesota indicates that for many anglers, the desire for rest and relaxation, the opportunity to escape the stresses of daily life and just being immersed in nature, those are far more significant motivators than actually catching a fish.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and even for those who rely on fishing for sustenance, the experience of being by the water provides a different kind of nourishment.
I like that.
And I think the tranquility of being underwater, observing marine life in its natural habitat, could offer those same restorative benefits.
Yeah, there's definitely that feeling of quiet contemplation when you're diving.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to boating, another activity that Nichols examines.
Okay.
I mean, it has such a long and significant history in human civilization, right?
It does. It's played a crucial role in human migration and exploration throughout history.
Yeah.
And in modern times, recreational boating, whether it's kayaking, paddleboarding, sailing, or using motorized vessels. It's often about forging this really direct connection with the water.
Right.
And people often report these health benefits of self-propelled watercraft, this sense of escape, the invigorating fresh air.
Yeah.
And then on larger vessels, there's that element of teamwork and shared adventure programs like Sail to Prevail, which Nichols mentions they use sailing as a therapeutic tool for individuals with various disabilities.
Wow.
Yeah, and they've actually documented some pretty significant improvements in participants' confidence, teamwork skills, and overall outlook.
That's incredible.
It is. And there's also this profound feeling of freedom associated with being on a boat.
Absolutely. And I think guided dive excursions can similarly foster a sense of teamwork and build confidence and provide that feeling of escape and freedom for your clients.
I agree. There's often a really strong sense of camaraderie that develops on a well-organized dive trip.
Totally. Okay, Nichols also touches on the importance of conservation in Blue Mind, which is obviously a topic that's very close to the hearts of many divers.
It is. And this is a really powerful connection that Nichols emphasizes in the book.
Okay.
He shares a compelling story about his work with Mexican fishermen and sea turtles.
Okay.
And their shared passion for the ocean ultimately led to these collaborative conservation efforts, the development of ecotourism, and this deep sense of pride within the community.
That's amazing.
It is. And, engaging in water sports and pursuing careers connected to the water, it inherently fosters this better brain chemistry and offers therapeutic benefits for everyone involved.
Right.
So for you as dive instructors, your profession, it naturally cultivates this connection to the ocean, and it can serve as this vital gateway for others to develop a greater appreciation for marine environments and a desire to protect them.
That's so true. Okay, so we've talked about all these benefits of being in, on, and near water.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, we live in a world that often feels so incredibly stressful.
It does.
How does Blue Mind and the concept of Blue Mind relate to managing all that stress?
Well, Blue Mind really dives deep into the detrimental effects of chronic stress, that persistent red mind state that Nichols talks about.
Yeah.
And it can contribute to a whole range of issues, memory problems, anxiety, depression, physical health ailments, even a reduction in the levels of important neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin.
Wow.
And what's really important to understand is that our bodies, they often react to non-life-threatening stressors, like receiving an unexpected bill, in much the same way that they would respond to genuine danger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it leads to this state of constant agitation.
That makes sense.
And then on top of that, there's the sheer volume of information that we're bombarded with every day, emails, social media notifications, that pressure to multitask.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And it just overwhelms our ability to focus and be productive.
It really does.
And research shows that our brains, they actually process and retain less information when we're feeling overwhelmed. And multitasking has been shown to negatively impact both our attention span and our memory.
It's like we're constantly under attack.
It can feel that way.
Okay, so how does Blue Mind offer a counterbalance to all of that?
Well, the book highlights this really long and rich history of recognizing the healing properties of water.
Okay.
From ancient physicians recommending specific bathing rituals to the 19th century practice of taking the waters to contemporary uses like surf therapy for addiction and PTSD, the therapeutic benefits are really undeniable.
Yeah.
And even something as simple as spending time observing an aquarium can lead to a reduction in anxiety levels.
Really?
Yeah, and studies have shown that exercising in close proximity to water can enhance mood and self-esteem to a greater extent than exercising in purely green spaces.
Oh, wow.
And the Heroes on the Water program, which uses kayaking for veterans with PTSD, it really demonstrates how engaging with water can positively impact all five senses and potentially even help to override traumatic memories, as observed by neurologist John Hart.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then there's surf therapy, which can offer this natural dopamine rush that can help replace the unhealthy highs associated with drug addiction.
That's so powerful.
And then there's this really interesting finding that water-based exercise has shown some remarkable and not fully understood positive effects for children with autism.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, things like improvements in social behaviors and increased tolerance to touch.
That's incredible.
And Nichols even shares his own personal story of recovery after a serious tractor accident, finding significant healing through surfing with the Operation Surf program.
It's really amazing to see all these different ways that being in and around water can be therapeutic.
It really is.
Okay, but it's not just about our physical and mental health.
Right.
Blue Mind also talks about connection and creativity.
It does. There's this almost mystical sense of connection to the natural world that water seems to facilitate.
Yeah.
William James, he famously said, "We are like islands in the sea, separate on the surface but connected in the deep.
Wow, I love that.
And this feeling of interconnectedness, whether we label it empathy, awe, or flow,
Yeah.
it manifests in so many different aspects of our lives, from spiritual experiences to moments of deep care for others to simply marveling at the beauty of a sunset.
Right.
And it's fundamentally about being present in the current moment, cultivating mindfulness.
Yeah.
And Ellen Langer, whose work Nichols references, she explains that mindfulness is about actively noticing new things,
Okay.
which inherently brings us into the present and enhances our sensitivity to context.
I like that.
And cluttered environments, both physical and mental, they can be a real source of distraction for our brains,
It can.
leading to increased stress levels. So spending time in or near water, as Blue Mind suggests, can help to clear this mental clutter and foster greater clarity.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That feeling of being completely present in the moment. It's so
Yeah.
powerful when you're submerged underwater.
Absolutely. And then there's the link to creativity, which Nichols explores as well.
Oh, yeah.
The flow state that we often experience during activities like surfing or kayaking
Yeah.
has been linked to decreased activity in the brain's executive function areas.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this temporary quieting of the critical parts of our brain, it can actually allow for more novel and unexpected connections to form.
Huh.
And even the very metaphor of fluid thinking is often used to describe the creative process, right?
Right.
And interestingly, studies have shown that physically touching something hard can actually temporarily decrease mental flexibility.
Wow.
Yeah. So Nichols suggests that sometimes getting to wet, immersing ourselves in or near water can help us step back from a problem or a negotiation and approach it with a fresh, more flexible perspective.
I love that. So even a quick swim could help us unlock some creative solutions.
Exactly.
Now, what about the sounds of water?
Oh, yeah, the sounds of water.
They're so calming.
They are. And they can have this immediate and noticeable impact on our mood, almost like a form of natural meditation.
Cool.
And there's Japanese research that has actually shown that listening to the sounds of a creek in a forest can alter blood flow patterns in the brain in ways that indicate increased relaxation.
Wow.
And the sounds of water are widely used as a tool to aid sleep and to help calm anxious patients in various settings.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there was even a study in a dental office that found that the presence of water fountains significantly reduced teenagers' anxiety about their treatment.
Wow.
And as Batts, whose research is cited in the book, explains the medial prefrontal cortex, it plays this crucial role in linking sensory input like sound to our emotional responses and feelings of connection.
Yeah.
And there was this really interesting fMRI study that compared brain responses to the sounds of freeway traffic and the sounds of ocean waves.
Okay.
And they found significantly improved brain connectivity when participants were exposed to ocean imagery, even when the auditory input was very similar.
Wow.
And then a psychoneuroimmunology study showed a reduction in stress hormones in cancer patients who listened to nature sounds that included water.
That's incredible.
So the key takeaway here is that water can almost meditate you, and even passive exposure through sight or sound can yield some really significant benefits.
It's like a sensory symphony that directly impacts our well-being.
It really is.
Okay, so Nichols also talks about this idea of the optimum brain in Blue Mind.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, the idea is that while activities that we often think of as brain training, they definitely have their value.
Yeah.
Our brains also require periods of both stimulation and rest and recovery.
Okay.
And spending time in nature, particularly around water, offers this really restorative, soft fascination.
That's fascination.
Yeah, which is less demanding on our directed attention.
Okay.
So it allows the brain to kind of step back, recover, and consolidate the information that it has processed.
That makes sense.
And of course, there's the concept of the flow state, which Csikszentmihalyi describes as this state of complete immersion in an activity
Yeah.
that leads to a sense of energized focus, full involvement and enjoyment in the process, and often ultimately leads to excellence.
Okay.
And many surfers, for example, they can vividly recall the exact moment they first got hooked on surfing.
Yeah.
And it was often when they were experiencing this really profound state of flow.
Well, that's so cool.
And even a long river trip that a group of scientists took led to observations like Art Kramer's about time seeming to slow down,
Wow.
highlighting the cognitive benefits of just being immersed in nature.
So it's about finding that balance between active engagement and restorative downtime.
Exactly.
And water plays a key role in that restorative aspect.
It does.
Okay, so this brings us back to our core audience dive professionals.
Right.
How can understanding these Blue Mind principles help them expand their role and the value that they offer to their clients?
Well, I think what Nichols' research in Blue Mind reveals is that these principles, they provide a really strong scientific foundation for you to consider expanding what you currently offer.
Okay.
You're not simply teaching people the technical skills of scuba diving, you're introducing them to an environment that has these profound and multifaceted well-being benefits.
That's true.
So think about maybe offering like Blue Mind themed dive excursions that specifically focus on relaxation and underwater mindfulness techniques.
I like that.
Or exploring potential partnerships with wellness professionals to incorporate water-based activities into broader stress reduction or therapy programs.
That's interesting.
Or even developing educational components that highlight the psychological and emotional advantages of spending time in marine environments.
Yeah.
And you could even involve your clients in citizen science initiatives to really deepen their connection to the ocean and foster that sense of purpose and contribution.
Those are such great ideas.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that you're not just showing people the beauty of the underwater world, you're offering them this pathway to a calmer, happier, and potentially more creative state of mind.
Exactly.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Blue Mind by Wallace J. Nichols, the book really highlights these incredible ways that water positively influences our brains and our overall well-being. And it goes way beyond just the fact that we need it to survive. And as dive instructors, you're in the really unique position to witness and facilitate those benefits for others.
Absolutely. And our goal today was to really showcase how the principles of Blue Mind can encourage this broader perspective on the ocean and your clients, recognizing the immense potential of water-based experiences to offer this whole range of therapeutic, cognitive, and emotional advantages.
And here's a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah.
How can you, as dive professionals, intentionally integrate the principles of Blue Mind into your interactions with your students and clients?
Yeah.
Maybe fostering an even deeper appreciation for the holistic benefits of the underwater world and potentially even unlocking new dimensions to their experience and maybe even to your own professional journey.
That's a great question.
What new possibilities might emerge when you view the ocean not just as a place to dive, but as this profound source of well-being?
Something to think about.
All right, that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
See you later. Bye.
Thanks for being with us today. Please subscribe wherever you're listening to this or at businessofdiving.com. Dive safe.